So here we are. Oscar season. Right? So, it is October, usually when Oscar films would start rolling out. But with the weird timeline of this year, Oscar season is kind of just not really an existent thing right now, especially because films continue to get pushed back. But with VOD releases, we're still getting a little bit of something, and most everything that comes out is hot shit, and I won't even watch it. But one of the two films that I was really excited for to come out this year were The Trial of the Chicago 7 and Mank, and we finally got the former. Aaron Sorkin is definitely my favorite writer, at least screenwriter, working in Hollywood at the moment. He is a love it or hate it writer. Some people despise his style. They just fucking hate it. Other people love it. I love it. I won't claim that everything he's ever created is a masterpiece, but you can't deny that, for one, his scripts bring out the best in actors, and this film definitely proves that. And two, he has brought to screen some of the most memorable television shows and films of the last couple of decades. So with a new film coming out from him and his second bout at directing that film, it's important to talk about, because especially when it comes to the Oscars, Sorkin, even when he himself is not nominated, will always find some kind of success, at least since like 2007, right? Charlie Wilson's War picking up a bunch of performance nominations, Social Network picking up a slew of nominations, including a win for Sorkin, Moneyball, a bunch of nominations, Steve Jobs, Fassbender and Winslet both found themselves noms, and with Molly's Game, he himself found one. So, obviously, when a Sorkin film comes out, he's an Oscar favorite. It's important, for my personal sake, to talk about that film. In terms of reviewing this movie, like I said, I was really excited for it, and I think it definitely met pretty much every expectation that I had. It turned out almost exactly the way that I knew it would. It's difficult to imagine what a Netflix film written and directed by Aaron Sorkin would look like. But when you try really hard, you can figure it out. Without seeing this movie, you could probably perfectly in your head envision what this movie is going to look and feel like. Overall, I think this movie is a really strong success, and I do think it's a really good movie with a couple of things holding it back from being really great or even perfect, which I think that this movie could have been. Aaron Sorkin is no stranger to the courtroom drama genre. In fact, he's kind of created one of the most influential and iconic courtroom dramas in film with A Few Good Men, which was obviously also a play, and he's worked in Broadway several times now. And his script is still so clean. It's so cut and dry, and it's everything that you expect from him. It's smart, it's witty, and people complain that everybody in his films talks like Aaron Sorkin, but there's a reason that Aaron Sorkin only writes about intellectual people anymore, because that's what he does. That's what he does best, is he writes intellectual people. And I find it really fun to watch a bunch of smart people talk back and forth at each other. You look at something like Moneyball, which is definitely the lesser of all of his recent films in terms of intellectual people spatting back and forth. He is capable of slowing his dialogue down. Moneyball does that. Are the people in Moneyball smart? Yes, but they're not Steve Jobs, and they're not Mark Zuckerberg, so they tone it back a little bit. But with this one, in a courtroom drama, he picks it right back up. And it works for the style of the film, and I thought above everything else, tonally, this movie really nailed it. You know, it's a film that takes place in 1968. People are complaining about the cheesiness of this film, and I think that is a perfectly warranted complaint. I've never actually sat through a Sorkin film and had a couple of lines where I physically went, ugh. Like, it almost didn't even seem like they were written by him. And yes, there is the ending, which is cheesy, but I thought the ending kind of worked in that element. It felt like a perfect bow on top of the present. I thought it wrapped everything up so well, and at that moment, your frustration that has built up so well through 2 hours, which does not feel like a 2:20 runtime at all, your frustration that has been built up and pent up is finally given a little bit of release. And as a result, I'm willing to give that cheesiness a bit of a pass, because it just kind of felt right, and it felt rewarding, and it felt earned, and I appreciated that. If nothing else, you're going to you're 100% going to feel something when you're watching this movie. I was angry, I was irritated, and you are going to ask yourself the question, is this really real? Did this actually fucking happen? Because there are moments where I was in shock and awe. I admit that I am not the most politically active individual. I don't know very much about the 1968 Democratic National Convention. I know what happened, but I don't know all of the interesting details. So going into this film, it was a mystery to me how it was going to end. And I found myself taken on a really fascinating ride that was written really well and performed really well. Two people that I owe apologies to. I'm going to say 1.5 people I owe apologies to. One is Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and the half of one is Eddie Redmayne. The only thing I've ever seen the former in was Aquaman, and he is probably the worst fucking performance in that movie. I thought he was, like, abysmal. I haven't seen Watchmen. I know he won his Emmy for Watchmen, but with this, he has most definitely proven himself to me as a really strong performer. He's not in as much as the rest of them are, but he's really, really good. Eddie Redmayne gets half of an apology because he's really good in this, but, like, motherfucker does not. Like, you're still building yourself back up, homie. Other performances, I think one that's going to go really understated is Frank Langella, who I think if if Netflix puts their chips down right in terms of campaigning, could 100% get him up for a supporting actor nom. He is spectacular in this film. He is so unlikable, and you despise him through and through. He's so good at it. Mark Rylance picks up Sorkin dialogue like it's native to him, which I thought was crazy because in the past only 5 years, he's managed to traverse some of the best filmmakers and adapt to their styles so easily with Spielberg and Chris Nolan and now Aaron Sorkin. He really melds himself into every character that he plays and with the dialogue and directorial styles of those individuals, and I'm really impressed by that, and I continue to be. John Carroll Lynch is really, really great in this, although his character is a little bit underdeveloped, I thought. I thought his character was definitely the weakest in terms of fleshing out. Sacha Baron Cohen and Jeremy Strong are both really great performance-wise. Sacha Baron Cohen is trying so hard on the accent, and he was this close, but I was getting Boston, I was getting New York, and I was getting Borat. He just kept different paths for every line, and like it was very inconsistent and it was hard to ignore, but he does put on a really strong performance, and it's a really humane one out of him. I haven't seen much of his dramatic work. Like, I didn't see The Spy, the Netflix show he was in, so it was nice seeing this as a change of pace from him, especially because Borat 2 is coming out this weekend, so it was nice seeing that from him. Jeremy Strong has proven himself to be exceptionally versatile, so he was great, obviously. The one that I did think was miscast was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I thought that I don't have any inherent problems with the character or the writing of the character, but he was a strange choice for it, I thought, because of how well known of an actor he is, and it kind of seemed like a role that you give to an unknown, because the whole time I was sitting there going, I want to feel both sides of this character, where you can tell he's morally challenged in doing what he's doing, but also it's his job and it's what he has to do. But you're sitting there going, that's just Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing a lawyer. Like, it's you can't get out of it. And that's what's funny, because he's acted alongside J.D. McKenzie, who plays a prosecutor in every single fucking movie he's ever been in, including Molly's Game, which is a Sorkin film. So, I don't know, like, I found it to be a really strange casting choice. Michael Keaton is great. He's in about 7 minutes of this movie, but when he's in it, he really steals the show. I thought he did a great job. So, something about Sorkin that's really, really impressive is he will always bring the best performance out of actors. Always. That's why every movie that he makes gets a ton of fucking performance nominations. You get the best out of Fassbender and Winslet. You get the best out of Chastain, Idris Elba. Kevin Costner, who hadn't put on a good performance in like 10 years, is awesome in Molly's Game. Like, his dialogue is so fun and easy for actors to perform. When I say easy, I mean it's much easier to perform good dialogue than bad. So you always get the best out of those performers, even like an Eddie Redmayne, who in the past years since he's won his Academy Award has just been on the fucking decline, no matter what. So it's always awesome to watch performances in a Sorkin film, because they're always brought the best out of. That being said, This is a Sorkin film, and that is its greatest strength, and it is also its greatest weakness. The number one complaint that I've seen all across the board is that Sorkin directed this movie, and I wish I could disagree. I can't. Sorkin started directing so late in his career. He's been writing films since 1992, and he's been writing since long before that. You know, it has been almost 20 years, and now he starts directing with Molly's Game. And it's an odd choice, because what I love so much about most Sorkin films is that dynamic between director and writer. It's so unique, because you watch something like The Social Network, and you see so much Sorkin, but you also see so much Fincher, and that's what makes it stick in your head. You walk out and you go, God, that script was so good, but also just those little nuances and style and substance from David Fincher, who makes such stylistic films. You don't get that in The Trial of the Chicago 7. Is Aaron Sorkin getting better at directing? Yes. This is a better directed film than Molly's Game. But there is a staleness and a flatness that you cannot escape, especially in a courtroom drama. If you want to make a courtroom drama, it has to be unique. It has to be fresh. And a script is halfway there. Luckily, Sorkin is so good of a writer that the script takes him more than halfway there. The script can make up for more than half of the quality of this film, and it does. It carries the entire thing. I can't help but sit there going, he's handicapping himself. He's holding himself back so much. All I wish is that he would just pen his scripts and give them off to a different director. Somebody who's so much better, because he directs his movies like he directs plays, and then instructs the editor to implement fast-paced editing as though that's a viable replacement. And it's not. It just doesn't work. And it's not inherently that the film is poorly directed. I wouldn't say that. It is most definitely a competently directed film. But it's stale. The direction is very flat, and that doesn't fit an Aaron Sorkin script. It just doesn't. Someone like Fincher is so good at directing dialogue like that. Even Danny Boyle with Steve Jobs put a really unique spin on it, or Bennett Miller with Moneyball. And he's the only one who's not good at it. And it's like, it's holding the film back so much. I firmly believe this movie could be perfect. Look at A Few Good Men with Rob Reiner behind the camera, which has so many subtleties of how they display courtroom sequences. There's a reason that Jack Nicholson's You Can't Handle the Truth line hits so hard. It's not just the way that it's written, it's the way the shot is choreographed. It's the mise-en-scène of that whole sequence, and the production design, and the way that the camera is moving around that courtroom. It's just not the same here. It feels like every courtroom scene I've ever seen in any television show or film, and that's really sad, because this thing could have been so much better. I think it's still like a strong 7 or an 8 out of 10. I think immediately after watching it, I gave it an 8. Upon thinking about it, I feel like I would lean more towards a 7. I think it is most definitely the weakest film Aaron Sorkin has made in quite some time, which is really unfortunate, and that's really sad, because I really, really like him. But it's also a great film still. I think it's still really, really well done. And he does a great job as writer. I just think it would be so much better if he handed it off to another director. And I know that that's been a basic complaint as of late, but like I can't think of anything else to really shit on it for. There are scenes that are very well directed. The penultimate Yahya Abdul-Mateen scene is really well directed. I thought that was really well done. And like, if there was a vision like that for every scene, this movie would be so much better, because that sequence stands out so much in my mind as being stylistic and being purposeful and inspired. I remember watching that scene thinking it was so good, and it made it like the pinnacle scene, which it's supposed to be. The riot scenes are good. They're well done. They should be better. They should be better. Even some of the violence is inconsistent. It's really strange, because there are a couple of times where someone gets like hit by a baton and it looks really good and really visceral and violent and brutal, and you sit there and you're uncomfortable by it. And then there's a slow motion shot of Alex Sharp's character getting hit in the back of the head, and like orange blood comes out, and it's really bad. Like, it doesn't look good at all. And it's really strange how back and forth inconsistent the film can be. But more often than not, it's consistently strong, which is where giving the film a rating is hard. It's been well received all across the board. People are praising his script, people are praising the performances, the technical elements of this film are also great. I know, as does everyone, that if you gave this, even back to Rob Reiner, you would see a drastic increase in quality of this film that would make it so much more memorable for viewers. Because what makes me the most, I want to say, sad out of everything is that I know this is going to be one of the least memorable Sorkin movies. I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to remember Social Network so much more, and Moneyball, and Steve Jobs so much more, even Molly's Game potentially, because I think Molly's Game has more of a inherent style, whereas this, being a courtroom drama, needed more directorial flair to stick in people's minds. I would overall give it a 7 out of 10. I would definitely tell you to see it if you're looking into Oscar stuff still. For one, because at this moment the pool is so limited, so something like a Sorkin movie is going to be really successful. I think this and Mank are really going to be huge for Netflix. So definitely check it out if you're into Oscar season. I think you'll be looking at a Best Picture nomination contender, definitely a writing contender, a couple performances. It'll be interesting to see who they campaign, because this movie really doesn't have a lead. People will probably argue that Eddie Redmayne is the lead, but I disagree. I think he shares a lead, even if he is with like Sacha Baron Cohen. I feel like this as an ensemble cast should definitely kind of be campaigning a lot of people in the supporting categories, like a Frank Langella or a Mark Rylance. I think that would definitely be the way to go. Overall, though, again, the script is great. It is dramatic when it needs to be. It hits home when it needs to be. It's funny when it needs to be. There are some great comedic lines and comedic timings like Sorkin does. If you're a Sorkin fan, I recommend this film, and I also recommend you post on Reddit or Twitter or whatever and implore him to either, before his next film, really figure out what he wants his directorial style to be, or to let somebody else do it. So let me know what you guys thought of this film in the comments below. I know that this is a very big film right now because there's still not a whole lot coming out. So let me know what you guys thought. I appreciate you watching this. Thank you for sticking with me. I know that there's been not a lot of videos in the past couple of months, but with the lack of films coming out and with me having a lot of work to do at school and just everything feeling weird, I'm still trying to get into the swing of things. So I promise I'm going to pump more stuff out. But again, thank you for sticking with me. I love you guys, and I'll see you all next time.